Hello, my name is Brent, and my wife Nicole and I, we own First Response Water Damage. Come every winter, we get calls regarding water damage or flooding in their basements. Now, some of those calls are defined as water damage, and water damage is defined as water intrusion due to a failed component. Failed component could be a broken pipe, failed dishwasher, wash machine, hot water tank, and these items and water damage are generally going to be covered by your homeowner's insurance. Now, the other calls we get regarding water damage in a basement or flooding is defined as outside or groundwater coming into the home. Groundwater and flooding generally is not going to be covered by your homeowner's insurance. And this is actually the topic we're going to be discussing today. What are some of the things you can look for around the perimeter of your house so that you don't have water coming into your basement and possibly prevent your basement from flooding in the first place?
How important is it to keep my gutters and downspouts clean?
So your gutters and downspouts are an integral part of your roof drainage system. A lot of water, a high volume of water does come off the roof, and they are designed to collect in one spot, come down the downspout into a pipe and run away from the house. If you don't have these systems clean and operating properly, if you have water coming off of these gutters, you're saturating this ground, and that water oftentimes has nowhere else to go but inside your crawl space or basement.
All my downspouts feed into a pipe in the ground. Why is water still pooling around my foundation walls?
So this is a very common issue. You know, these are working properly, your downspouts working properly, they are going into the pipe properly, and yet we'll see tons of water still pooling along the wall of the house. A couple things I want you to look for. I want you to look at your garden beds right here. Are they sloped towards your house or are they sloped away from your house? We want them always sloped away from the house. If they're sloped towards the house, that water has nowhere else to go but pool up right there on your foundation. The other thing that could be causing is look at your backyard. Does your backyard slope down? And maybe right about here, it does slope up, which is great, but it can't compensate for how much water's coming and sloping down your backyard. If that's the case, you might need to look into putting some type of a drainage ditch right here or a French drain, capture that water here before it gets to the foundation.
Can't I just hire a contractor to waterproof my basement walls or put in a sub pump?
So both waterproofing your basement walls and sub pumps are excellent tools, and there's a lot of great contractors out there. Nothing wrong with putting those items, those tools in place. But in 30 years, well, more than 30 years experience, I have found there's no substitute for keeping water away from the foundation in the first place. If you want to put in the waterproofing materials, if you want to put in the sump pump, excellent idea, but use that as a secondary and or tertiary solution to keep your basement dry. I have dealt with a lot of customers that have a flooded basement and they're upset because they spent money on a sump pump, but the power went out. So keep the water away from the foundation. Still okay to put a sump pump in, still a great idea to waterproof things, but keep the water away in the first place should be your first line of defense in order to keep your basement dry.
I don't have water around my foundation, but my basement window wells seem to collect water.
So different parts of the country are different. Not everyone has finished basements. Here in the Seattle area, King County, the greater surrounding areas, there's a lot of finished basements. And when you build a finished basement, you have to have an emergency egress window, which means putting in a window well so that a person can escape out of the basement in an emergency. Problem is, it's a well. It can collect water. A few things I want you to look at. They should have a drain in them. Make sure you find those drains. Make sure they're not covered with debris. Make sure they're cleaned off. If water still is not flowing through the drains, you might need to have a company come out that has a camera and inspect the length of those drain pipes. Are they clogged with debris? Are roots growing in them? Are they broken? If you find those issues, you need to address those issues and get those repaired. I have seen some houses where the drains are flowing fine, they're flowing properly, but yet the water coming off the slope in the backyard is simply more than those drains can physically handle. And if that's the case, you're probably going to have to look into possibly putting in bigger drains.
My gutters and downspouts are flowing good, but they don't go into a pipe. What do I do?
So there are a lot of houses when they're built, they don't have pipes buried in the ground for the downspouts to dump into. We see that quite frequently. Putting those splash blocks on the bottom, yeah, they get it away from your foundation about yay far, not necessarily enough, especially if the ground is flat or slopes back to the foundation anyways. So a couple of options. You can have some contractors come out. What's it going to cost to go ahead and trench and put pipes in to a safe place where that water can dissipate somewhere else? You will have to look into what codes and permitting might be required in your particular area. Different areas are going to have different rules, and you need to follow the rules where your home is. I did have one customer. She did actually have several contractors come out, and based on her concrete patios and her driveway, it was really cost prohibitive, along with her permits, to have underground drainage put in. So what she did, she actually dug a trench around the perimeter of her house. She lined it with a very thick plastic visqueen, filled it with river rock. It looked pretty. It looked like landscaping, but all of her downspouts actually were able to drain into the riverbed and run away from her home to a safe drainage area without her having to go through the expense of digging up trenches, then putting in pipes, plumbers, permitting, and all that expense. So look into your area and see what's viable on what would work for your home. So I realize this is just a brief overview, and there's no way to cover every scenario in a brief video. But these are the most common reasons that we hear first response water damage are called out to dry out basements, whether they're from a water damage or they're from a flood. If you are currently experiencing a water damage or flood issue in your basement, anywhere in King County or North Pierce County, by all means, please give us a call here at 206-902-6736. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If we have reoccurring questions or comments, who knows? That could be the topic of our next video. And thank you for visiting First Response Water Damage.